Hi everyone. Welcome to English Story School, where every story brings you one step closer to mastering English. Let's turn learning into an unforgettable adventure. Have you ever felt like you were constantly chasing something, validation, love, or maybe even success? But no matter how much you achieved, it never felt like enough? I've been there too. And so has Oprah Winfrey. But what if I told you that the key to unlocking your true potential doesn't lie out there somewhere? It's been inside you all along. This is the story of how Oprah Winfrey discovered the transformative power of self-love, and how that journey not only changed her life, but taught millions of others to change theirs too. Let's take a moment and travel back to the early years of Oprah Winfrey's life. Picture this. A young girl growing up in the rural South, surrounded by hardship at every turn. Oprah was born into poverty in 1954 in Kosciuszko, Mississippi. Her mother, a maid, struggled to make ends meet, and her father, a coal miner turned barber, was not a constant presence in her life. From the very beginning, life tested Oprah in ways most of us can't even begin to imagine. She was shuffled between caregivers, living with her grandmother for much of her early childhood. Her grandmother taught her to read before the age of 3, and little Oprah would recite Bible verses in church, earning her the nickname the preacher. But beneath the surface of her precocious intelligence was a little girl enduring unimaginable pain. Oprah has openly shared that she was a victim of abuse at the hands of family members, a traumatic experience that would leave lasting scars. By the time she was 14, she became pregnant, and her son tragically died shortly after birth. For many, this kind of pain would be insurmountable. But Oprah's story was far from over. Despite the chaos of her early life, Oprah carried a spark within her, a determination to rise above her circumstances. She knew, even as a young girl, that she was destined for something greater. With the help of her father, who instilled discipline and a strong work ethic in her, Oprah excelled in school. She won a full scholarship to Tennessee State University, a historically black college, where she studied communication. Now, imagine this: a young Oprah, full of ambition but also carrying the weight of her traumatic past, stepping into the world of television. She started small, as a local news anchor, where she faced her fair share of challenges, including criticism for her appearance and style. But Oprah was undeterred. She had a natural gift for connecting with people, a warmth and authenticity that made her stand out. This gift eventually landed her a job hosting a morning talk show in Chicago. That show, it would later be renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show. By the mid-1980s, Oprah had become a household name. Her show wasn't just popular, it was a phenomenon. She interviewed everyone from everyday heroes to the biggest celebrities in the world, tackling topics that resonated deeply with her audience. And yet, even as she stood at the pinnacle of success, Oprah felt an emptiness inside. In interviews, Oprah has admitted that she struggled with self-worth, even at the height of her fame. She confessed to seeking external validation, working tirelessly to prove herself and earn the approval of others. Does that sound familiar? It's a trap many of us fall into, believing that if we just achieve one more goal, get one more promotion, or win one more accolade, we'll finally feel enough. But as Oprah's story shows, no amount of external success can fill an internal void. Here's the thing: Oprah could have stopped there. She could have continued her life seeking validation from the world, masking her pain with accolades and applause. But she didn't. Oprah chose to confront her past, to dig deep into her soul, and to find healing through the power of self-love. And in doing so, she not only transformed her own life, but also became a guiding light for millions of others. Her early life wasn't just a backdrop. It was the crucible that shaped her into the icon we know today. Oprah's journey teaches us that our struggles don't define us. They refine us. They give us the strength to rise, the wisdom to grow, and the courage to love ourselves, even when the world doesn't. This is why Oprah's story resonates so deeply. It's not just a tale of triumph over adversity. It's a reminder that no matter where you start, no matter how heavy your burdens may feel, there's always hope for a brighter, more authentic life. And that, my friends, is the true power of self-love. The late 1980s were a defining period in Oprah Winfrey's life, a time when her external world seemed perfect, but her internal world was in turmoil. By then, Oprah had become a household name. Her talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, was a runaway success, drawing millions of viewers who tuned in daily to witness her warmth, intelligence, and undeniable charisma. On the surface, she appeared unstoppable, a woman who had climbed her way to the top of a fiercely competitive industry, breaking barriers and rewriting the rules along the way. But behind the scenes, Oprah was waging a very personal and invisible battle. Fame, wealth, and adoration poured in, but they didn't erase the doubts and insecurities rooted deeply in her past. As she later admitted, no matter how much she achieved, she often felt like it wasn't enough. The weight of her traumatic childhood, coupled with the relentless pressure of her present, left her grappling with her sense of self-worth. And it wasn't just an emotional struggle. It manifested physically too. Oprah's battle with weight, which was magnified under the public eye, became a symbol of the deeper emotional wounds she hadn't yet addressed. The real issue wasn't the number on the scale, but what it represented: a lifetime of seeking comfort and validation outside herself. Food became a way to fill the emptiness created by years of pain, rejection, and unworthiness. Yet, the more she sought external solutions to internal wounds, the more she realized how unfulfilled she felt. Despite her monumental achievements, one persistent question gnawed at her. Am I truly enough? This question, rooted in moments of childhood neglect and pain, became the crux of her journey towards self-love. It was during this turbulent period that Oprah began her most important journey, not one of career milestones, but one of self-discovery. For years, she had been running from her pain, burying it under the weight of her success. But now, she decided to confront it head-on. She started peeling back the layers of her beliefs, questioning the narratives she had held about herself since she was a child. She faced the inner voices that told her she was unworthy and undeserving of joy. These beliefs, instilled by years of hardship and rejection, were now ready to be challenged. At the heart of this transformation was one simple yet profound question: what would happen if I loved myself the way I love others? This question wasn't just a fleeting thought. It became the cornerstone of Oprah's new reality. For someone like Oprah, who had spent her career pouring compassion and understanding into others, this was nothing short of a revelation. She realized she had spent decades nurturing the world, but had neglected to nurture herself. Now, she was ready to redirect some of that love inward. Her first steps on this path were intentional, but modest. Oprah began practicing daily affirmations, standing in front of a mirror each morning and speaking words of kindness to herself. Statements like, "I am worthy of love," and "I am enough," may have seemed simple, but for Oprah, they carried the power to challenge a lifetime of negative self-talk. At first, these affirmations felt uncomfortable, even forced. But over time, their repetition began to shift her mindset, replacing self-doubt with self-acceptance. Another pivotal practice was her gratitude journal. Each day, Oprah committed to writing down 5 things she was grateful for, small or large. This exercise shifted her focus from what she lacked to what she already had. She found joy in simple moments: a warm breeze, a thoughtful gesture, or the quiet strength of her morning routine. Gratitude, she discovered, wasn't just an act of recognition. It was a lifeline that anchored her in the present and reminded her of life's abundance. But Oprah's journey wasn't just about adding new habits. It was also about letting go. She began examining the relationships and situations in her life that no longer served her. For years, she had held on to toxic connections, people who drained her energy, dismissed her value, or reinforced her insecurities. Letting go of these relationships wasn't easy, but it was essential. Oprah realized that saying no to what didn't align with her values was a powerful act of self-love. By creating space for positivity, she began attracting healthier, more fulfilling relationships. As Oprah redefined what self-love meant to her, she also started to understand the power of boundaries. Setting boundaries wasn't about shutting people out. It was about protecting her well-being. She stopped overextending herself to meet others' expectations and began prioritizing her own needs. This was a radical shift for someone who had spent much of her life seeking approval, but it was also a liberating one. With every boundary she set, Oprah reclaimed a piece of herself. This inward journey wasn't a straight line. There were setbacks and moments of doubt, but Oprah was committed to the process. She understood that self-love wasn't a destination. It was a practice, a daily commitment to treating herself with kindness and respect. And as she began to embody this practice, her external world began to transform. The more she loved and valued herself, the more authentic and impactful her work became. Oprah's transformation had a ripple effect that extended far beyond her personal life. Her renewed sense of self infused her work with greater depth and purpose. On The Oprah Winfrey Show, she began focusing on topics like healing, forgiveness, and personal growth, issues that resonated deeply with her audience. By sharing her own journey of self-love, Oprah became a source of inspiration for millions, showing them what was possible when you choose to honor yourself. Looking back, the late 1980s were a turning point not just in Oprah's life, but in the lives of everyone she would go on to inspire. It all began with a single, powerful question. What would happen if I loved myself the way I love others? That question didn't just transform Oprah. It became a beacon of hope for countless others seeking to rewrite their own narratives. One of the most profound realizations Oprah Winfrey had during this period was that self-love wasn't about indulgence or superficial pampering. It was about doing the deep, sometimes uncomfortable work of nurturing her well-being. This realization redefined the way she approached her life. Self-love, she discovered, meant forgiving herself for mistakes that weighed heavily on her heart, silencing the relentless inner critic that questioned her worth, and celebrating her achievements without waiting for applause from the outside world. It meant looking in the mirror and seeing herself not through the lens of flaws or imperfections, but with a perspective that honored her strength, resilience, and beauty, the very qualities that had carried her through decades of challenges. As she embraced this mindset, the shifts within Oprah began to ripple outward. These weren't minor adjustments. They were seismic changes that touched every aspect of her life. She started approaching her relationships and work with a new sense of balance, one anchored in authenticity and self-assurance. No longer driven by the exhausting need to prove herself or earn approval, Oprah found the freedom to show up as her true self. It was liberating, and this transformation became the foundation for a new chapter in her life, one marked by purpose, clarity, and peace. Professionally, this shift was nothing short of revolutionary. On The Oprah Winfrey Show, the themes of self-love, gratitude, and healing that had transformed her personal life began to infuse her programming. Her show evolved from a traditional talk show format to a platform for deep, meaningful conversations that resonated on a soul-deep level with her audience. Topics like personal growth, forgiveness, and emotional well-being became central to her storytelling. Oprah wasn't just hosting a show anymore. She was guiding her viewers on journeys of self-discovery, sharing the tools and lessons that had changed her own life. This transformation wasn't a quick fix. Oprah faced moments of doubt and setbacks along the way, as anyone does when confronting deep-seated beliefs and habits. But she remained steadfast, understanding that real change isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Through daily affirmations, gratitude practices, and the courage to release what no longer served her, she not only transformed her own life, but also created a roadmap that others could follow. Her vulnerability became a strength, her struggles a testament to what was possible with determination and love. One of the most impactful lessons she learned and shared was this: you teach others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. Think about that for a moment. How many times do we allow ourselves to tolerate things that don't align with our values simply because we fear upsetting others or losing their approval? How often do we silence our own needs to maintain the illusion of harmony? For Oprah, this realization was like a lightning bolt. It redefined her understanding of relationships and boundaries. At the height of her career, Oprah was constantly pulled in countless directions. Everyone wanted something from her: her time, her energy, her influence. For years, she had said yes to nearly everything, believing that this was the cost of success. But beneath the surface, it was exhausting. Oprah felt depleted, overcommit, and at times, resentful of the very obligations she had agreed to. This was when the lesson clicked for her. If I don't value my own time and energy, why would anyone else? She realized that how she treated herself set the standard for how others would treat her. This revelation became a turning point, and Oprah began setting boundaries, not as barriers, but as a form of self-respect. She started saying no to commitments that didn't align with her values or that drained her energy. It wasn't easy at first. For someone who had spent much of her life seeking approval and avoiding conflict, saying no felt uncomfortable. But over time, it became a liberating act of self-love. To guide her decisions, Oprah began asking herself a series of questions. Does this align with my values? Will this bring me joy? Am I saying yes out of obligation or genuine desire? If the answer was no, she gave herself the freedom to decline. And as she did, something remarkable happened. The world didn't collapse. The people who truly cared about her respected her boundaries, and those who didn't fell away. She realized that boundaries weren't about shutting people out. They were about teaching others to treat her with the respect she deserved. This wasn't the only shift in Oprah's mindset. She also stopped seeking approval from the outside world. For years, she had chased external validation, believing that success and recognition would fill the emptiness inside. But no matter how much she achieved, it was never enough. Finally, Oprah decided to step off the treadmill of endless approval seeking. Instead, she focused on living authentically and intentionally. This meant embracing her true self, flaws and all, without needing validation from others. She stopped trying to be everything to everyone and started being true to herself. It was a powerful and liberating shift. Living authentically didn't mean Oprah stopped caring about others. It meant she stopped allowing their opinions to define her worth. She learned to separate constructive feedback from unnecessary criticism and to trust her own judgment. This newfound self-trust became a guiding force, helping her make decisions aligned with her vision and values. One way Oprah grounded this transformation was through mindfulness. She began starting each day with moments of stillness, reflecting on her intentions and goals. This practice kept her centered and allowed her to face challenges with grace and resilience. It also deepened her connection to her inner self, reinforcing the alignment between her personal growth and her life's purpose. The effects of this transformation rippled outward. Oprah's relationships flourished as she surrounded herself with people who respected her boundaries and shared her values. Her work became more meaningful as she focused on projects that aligned with her purpose. And most importantly, she found a sense of peace that had eluded her for much of her life. Oprah's story teaches us that self-love isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about honoring your needs, showing up for yourself, and believing that you are deserving of all the good life has to offer. When you make that choice, the world begins to change, not because it's different, but because you are. One of the most transformative concepts Oprah introduced to her audience was the idea of aha moments. These were the flashes of clarity, insight, and transformation that could shift the trajectory of a person's life. Oprah deeply believed in their power because she had experienced them herself. These moments, often born from struggle or reflection, provided a sense of direction and purpose that allowed people to break free from old patterns and step into a new way of living. By creating a space for these revelations on her show, Oprah wasn't just entertaining her audience. She was inviting them to explore their inner worlds, confront their truths, and embrace the possibility of change. This wasn't a minor adjustment in her programming. It was a complete redefinition of what a talk show could be. Oprah proved that television didn't have to choose between entertainment and substance. Her approach demonstrated that tough topics, whether about emotional healing, societal struggles, or personal growth, could be addressed with warmth, relatability, and even joy. She created an environment where viewers felt safe to explore their emotions, tackle their fears, and imagine brighter futures. In doing so, Oprah didn't just elevate her show, she elevated the entire medium of daytime television. The impact of this transformation was undeniable. People didn't just tune in to the Oprah Winfrey Show for celebrity interviews or feel-good moments anymore. They came because they felt seen and heard. Oprah created a space where their struggles, dreams, and triumphs mattered. She wasn't just another host. She became a trusted guide, a teacher, and for many, a friend. Her ability to connect on such a personal level was unparalleled, and it became the cornerstone of her enduring legacy. Of course, this shift wasn't without challenges. Oprah faced criticism from those who preferred the show's earlier format or didn't understand her vision. There were skeptics who questioned whether audiences would embrace this deeper, more introspective approach. But Oprah stood firm in her commitment to authenticity. She trusted that the people who needed her message would find her, and they did in the millions. By staying true to her values, she not only redefined success on her own terms, but also inspired others to do the same. Through this transformation, Oprah taught a powerful lesson. When you embrace your true self, you unlock the power to make an even greater impact. She demonstrated that aligning your work with your authenticity doesn't just change your career, it changes lives. Her vulnerability and courage created a ripple effect, inspiring countless others to live with intention, courage, and love. One of the reasons Oprah's message resonated so deeply was her authenticity. She never presented herself as someone who had all the answers or who had overcome every challenge flawlessly. Instead, she shared her struggles openly, the moments of self-doubt, the pain of her past, and the ongoing challenges of staying true to herself in a world that constantly demanded more. By being vulnerable, Oprah made the practice of self-love feel accessible and real. She reminded her audience that it's okay to stumble, to take a step back, and to start over as many times as needed. Oprah's teachings on self-love began with the simplest of acts. She showed her audience that it's not about grand gestures or chasing perfection. It's about the small, everyday choices we make to honor who we are. For Oprah, this often meant pausing in the middle of a busy day to acknowledge her own strength and beauty. She encouraged others to do the same, to take a breath, appreciate their unique qualities, and embrace the power within themselves. Forgiveness became another central theme in her work. Oprah believed that holding on to guilt or regret only weighed people down, preventing them from moving forward. She described forgiveness as an act of liberation, not just for those who had wronged her, but for herself. Letting go of past pain was a way to reclaim her power and step into the present with clarity and strength. She reminded her audience that forgiveness isn't about condoning wrongdoing. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment. Another essential pillar of Oprah's self-love philosophy was the power of rest. In a culture that glorifies busyness and productivity, Oprah's message was refreshingly radical. Rest is not a weakness, it's a necessity. She spoke openly about listening to her body and giving herself permission to slow down. Whether it was taking a nap, enjoying a quiet moment with a book, or simply saying no to an overpacked schedule, Oprah demonstrated that rest is an act of self-respect and care. Through her show and her broader platform, Oprah also encouraged her audience to create lives aligned with their values and passions. She urged people to let go of what no longer served them, whether it was toxic relationships, limiting beliefs, or unfulfilling jobs, and to embrace what truly brought them joy. For Oprah, this meant focusing on initiatives that resonated deeply with her own journey, like launching the Oprah magazine, founding her own network, and championing stories that uplift and inspire. What made Oprah's message universal was its simplicity. She reminded us that self-love isn't reserved for a select few. It's something we all deserve, regardless of our circumstances. Whether it's reflecting on gratitude, forgiving a mistake, or setting a boundary, self-love is about choosing yourself every day. Oprah made it clear that self-love is not static. It's an ongoing practice that requires patience, intention, and grace. Through her vulnerability and wisdom, Oprah didn't just inspire self-love. She gave her audience the tools to practice it. From gratitude journals to affirmations, from mindful reflection to meaningful conversations, she created a roadmap for living authentically and compassionately. And she did it all with a humility and warmth that made her lessons feel deeply personal and attainable. Ultimately, Oprah's journey teaches us that self-love is about showing up for yourself every single day. It's about recognizing your inherent worth, not because of what you've achieved, but simply because of who you are. It's about giving yourself the freedom to rest, to dream, to grow, and to heal. And most importantly, it's about remembering that even on the hardest days, you are enough. So, take a moment. Ask yourself, what's one small way I can show myself love today? Maybe it's writing down a few things you're grateful for. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for something you've been holding on to. Or maybe it's as simple as letting yourself rest when you need it. Whatever it is, remember this. Self-love isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And as Oprah taught us, it has the power to transform not just your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. So, what does Oprah's story teach us? It teaches us that self-love isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. It's the foundation for everything else in life. And the best part? It's available to all of us, right now, no matter where we are in our journey. Take a moment to think about your own life. What's one thing you can do today to show yourself love? Maybe it's setting a boundary, saying no, or just reminding yourself that you're enough. Because you are. And with that said, thanks for watching, and until next time. Remember, the power to transform your life starts with loving yourself. You've got this.